Yi Futian looked up to the warrior of Zhu clan and said laughing, "Since I was the one who opened the door of the ancestral lands, and came inside with warriors of Wu clan, of course, I am related to the disappearance of ancestral lands no matter what reason." Yi Futian looked up to the warrior of Zhu clan and said laughing, "Since I was the one who opened the door of the ancestral lands, and came inside with warriors of Wu clan, of course, I am related to the disappearance of ancestral lands no matter what reason. It's just I still have no idea how I got related. I received teachings from Emperor Qua, and passed it to Senior Wu Yong. I did what I was supposed to do, and what you saw is all that happened." There was no way he could tell that his life spirit had devoured the sun otherwise. The crisis he was facing would be not only from the 9 clans. Until now, he still had no idea what the dazzling fire spirit orb in the sun was. But at least he was sure that it was the base of Emperor Qua's relics, which had devoured the whole ancestral lands. It was probably the treasure used by Emperor Qua for cultivation during his time, which was beyond the saint level. If such a treasure were exposed, many people in Crimson Dragon's realm would covet it. What Lord Yi said is true. I received Emperor Qua's heritage through Lord Yi, and entered the Nirvana plane thanks to it, said Wu Yong, standing beside Yi Futian. Then how do you explain the death of the head of Wu clan? Your excuse was not convincing at all, said a burly middle-aged man of Zhu clan, his eyes blazing with anger. Yi Futian was invited by Wu Yong to join the Wu clan, but then Wu clan betrayed them. They hadn't settled it with them yet. But now, Wu Yong and the people of Wu clan all seemed to be on Yi Futian's side. The thing was too coincidental. What was truth hidden behind it? How did the head of Wu clan die? Wu Yong stared at him. His pupils turned red, and the horrifying will directly swept out of his eyes, and rushed into that Zhu clan warrior's mind. The warrior was of unblemished plain, and suddenly turned pale when the shock came. He let out a low groan and took a step back. "You want to know?" said Wu Yong coldly. "After Lord Yi helped us enter the site, the head wanted to take Emperor Qua's heritage as his own and kill Lord Yi, but got devoured and died. Do you like the answer?" The place suddenly went quiet after Wu Yong said the words. He didn't elaborate on the process, but top figures of all clans could roughly figure out what had happened. Especially the ones who had entered the ancestral lands understood what he meant, since they had similar thoughts too. It was just that Yi Futian looked like a tough guy. He killed a Nirvana saint using the Renhuang will. Your head died because of him, but you don't seem to care at all. That warrior of Zhu clan, who had stepped back, said coldly. Everyone needs to be responsible for their own choice. So does our head. I invited Lord Yi to join the Wu clan. After the ancestral land was opened, the thought of killing came to the head's mind. I will not judge who is right or wrong here, but I think you have your answer, said Wu Yong calmly. As for the Wu clan, from now on I, Wu Yong, will serve as the head. Very good. The head of Zhu clan walked up and said. The life force from his body was almost intimidating. It exerted huge pressure over everyone. He looked toward Wu Yong and said, I will leave the death of the ex-head of Zhu clan. The ancestral lands have been the common heritage of we 9 clans for many years, but now it just disappeared. Wu Yong, shouldn't you give us an explanation? I have no idea why the ancestral lands disappeared, but if Lord Yi indeed unlocked the secret left by Emperor Qua, and became Emperor Qua's inheritor, shouldn't the 9 clans follow the clan doctrine and obey Yi Futian's order? Said Wu Yong. The head of Zhu clan stared at him fiercely after he asked the question. There was indeed such a clan doctrine in the 9 clans. But how could the 9 clans let their people submit to Yi Futian and listen to his order? The heads of the 9 clans were all of Nirvana Plain. They were the lords who ruled the west land of Crimson Dragon's realm. If Yi Futian unlocked the secret treasure left by Emperor Qua, should they choose to steal from him, or to submit to him? Such a simple question that everyone should have an answer to. He didn't need to overthink it. If Lord Yi made it, will the 9 clans agree to submit? If not, why do you keep asking? Continued Wu Yong. Since the 9 clans invited all warriors, they are here to help us. Now the site has disappeared, and we should put an end to all this. No warriors had expected Wu Yong would defend for Yi Futian like this. Xia Qingyuan and others had figured out what the whole story was like. It was simple and banal. So you mean we 9 clans shouldn't even ask about the disappearance of the ancestral lands? Just let it go. A warrior of the Chong clan also said in a slightly hostile tone. The death of the head of the Wu clan was Wu clan's own business. They could ignore it. But how could they easily let go of ancestral lands left by Emperor Kwa? What do you want to do? Asked Xia Qingyuan, standing next to Yi Futian in a cold voice. It sounded like the 9 clans were reluctant to let Yi Futian go. Lord Yi, please stay in Emperor Kwa's city to cooperate with the 9 clans' investigation into the thing that happened in ancestral lands. If our investigation proves it is not related to you, then we will see you off, said one person. Xia Qingyuan released the cold wool from her body, letting Yi Futian stay. She was certain that Yi Futian had gotten something, and warriors of all clans must have known something about it. Obviously, they wanted to mug Yi Futian for what he got in the Emperor Kwa's sight. Once they did it, they would wipe him out. Of course, he couldn't stay here. Go away, said Xia Qingyuan cold. She released the cold will. She said, we were invited to come to the ancestral lands and open the door for you. Is this how you treat us? A gust of will befell after the 2 words go away came out of her mouth. Warriors of clans thought to themselves that no wonder the princess of Emperor Xia's realm could be so arrogant. But even though they were not afraid that Nirvana Plain warriors of Emperor Xia's realm would come, they didn't dare to touch Xia Qingyuan. If they touched the daughter of Ren Huang and Emperor Xia came for revenge, that would be beyond Emperor Crimson Dragon's governance. Yi Futian also looked cold. He had already expected the way all these clans behaved. From their point of view, of course, they wanted to take Emperor Kwa's treasure as their own. It was because they couldn't take it that they invited them. The atmosphere became quite depressing. Shen Tianzhan appeared in front of Yi Futian. He stood with Wu Yong. Both of them were of Nirvana Plain. However, compared with the other 8 clans, their power seemed not worth mentioning. Lord Yi, you are placing us in a difficult situation, said the warrior of Zhu clan slowly. Is this your way of treating guests? At that moment a voice came. Many people followed the voice and expressed surprise when they saw the speaker. The one who asked the question was the prince of Emperor Dong's palace, Duan Wuji. The people of the clans didn't expect he would say something. A warrior of Chong clan said to Duan Wuji, Your Highness, the issue is about the ancestral lands of our 9 clans. We must be cautious about this thing. The Chong clan used to collaborate with the Emperor Dong's palace. This time they didn't want to offend Duan Wuji. Since Duan Wuji's power was not in other realms, he was the Renhuang power, which ruled the East Land in Crimson Dragon's realm. Duan Wuji flashed a smile and said, We were invited to unlock the secret of Emperor Kwa's relic, but today, it seems that even if one of us succeeds, you will still not let him go. It doesn't sound like cooperation. If I were the one who had made it, perhaps I would be the one who had to face the situation today. The person of Chong clan didn't know how to reply after listening to Duan Wuji's words. If Duan Wuji had been the person who opened the secret of the ancestral lands, would they force him to stay? Everybody just let that be the end, Duan Wuji said calmly. Even Yi Futian took a glance at him in surprise. He didn't expect that Duan Wuji would speak for him. During the Battle of Ancestral Lands, Duan Wuji was defeated by Yi Futian and got burned by his flame of the way. Your Highness, this thing is related to the future of our 9 clans, said the warrior of the Chong clan. Obviously, he still didn't want to let it go even though Duan Wuji had expressed his attitude. As far as I know, if there were no external assistance, the 9 clans would not be able to step inside the ancestral lands, said Duan Wuji. If the 9 clans were indeed so altruistic, how about you work together and share Emperor Kwa's heritage with all of us? Your Highness, this thing is not Emperor Dong's palace's business, said the head of Zhu clan. Since I am on the trip, of course, I am involved in this, said Duan Wuji. He is right. Since we were invited to the ancestral lands, we are related. Let's leave the issue aside in case the prestige of the 9 clans is affected, another voice said. People of clans all frowned. The speaker was another Renhuang descendant, Emperor Wu's princess Yin Tianjiao. The 2 were Yi Futian's strongest competitors, but were all defeated by him. Now they both spoke for Yi Futian. Was it out of respect between heroes? People of clans began to look uneasy. People from Emperor Xia's realm, warriors of Thousand Leaves City, Wu Yong, and others from Wu clan, besides the powers of two Renhuang realms. Such a team was awesome enough. Xia Qingyuan saw Yin Tianjiao talk, and took a look at Yi Futian. Yi Futian had a strange expression on his face too. Obviously, the thing was also out of his expectations. Yin Tianjiao showed no mercy to him in ancestral lands. Who could expect today both warriors could speak for him? Chapter 1249. Expressing attitudes, Yi Futian looked up to the warrior of Zhu clan and said, laughing, "Since I was the one who opened the door of the ancestral lands, and came inside with warriors of Wu clan, of course, I am related to the disappearance of ancestral lands no matter what reason. It's just I still have no idea how I got related. I received teachings from Emperor Kwa, and passed it to Senior Wu Yong. I did what I was supposed to do, and what you saw is all that happened." There was no way he could tell that his life spirit had devoured the sun otherwise. The crisis he was facing would be not only from the 9 clans. Until now, he still had no idea what the dazzling fire spirit orb in the sun was. But at least he was sure that it was the base of Emperor Kwa's relics, which had devoured the whole ancestral lands. It was probably the treasure used by Emperor Kwa for cultivation during his time, which was beyond the saint level. If such a treasure were exposed, many people in Crimson Dragon's realm would covet it. What Lord Yi said is true. I received Emperor Kwa's heritage through Lord Yi, and entered the Nirvana plane thanks to it, said Wu Yong, standing beside Yi Futian. Then how do you explain the death of the head of Wu clan? Your excuse was not convincing at all, said a burly middle-aged man of Zhu clan, his eyes blazing with anger. Yi Futian was invited by Wu Yong to join the Wu clan, but then Wu clan betrayed them. They hadn't settled it with them yet. But now, Wu Yong and the people of Wu clan all seemed to be on Yi Futian's side. The thing was too coincidental. What was truth hidden behind it? How did the head of Wu clan die? Wu Yong stared at him. His pupils turned red, and the horrifying will directly swept out of his eyes, and rushed into that Zhu clan warrior's mind. The warrior was of unblemished plain, and suddenly turned pale when the shock came. He let out a low groan and took a step back. You want to know? Said Wu Yong coldly. After Lord Yi helped us enter the site, the head wanted to take Emperor Kwa's heritage as his own and kill Lord Yi, but got devoured and died. Do you like the answer? The place suddenly went quiet after Wu Yong said the words. He didn't elaborate on the process, but top figures of all clans could roughly figure out what had happened. Especially the ones who had entered the ancestral lands understood what he meant, since they had similar thoughts too. It was just that Yi Futian looked like a tough guy. He killed a Nirvana saint using the Renhuang will. Your head died because of him, but you don't seem to care at all, that warrior of Zhu clan, who had stepped back, said coldly. Everyone needs to be responsible for their own choice. So does our head. I invited Lord Yi to join the Wu clan. After the ancestral land was opened, the thought of killing came to the head's mind. I will not judge who is right or wrong here, but I think you have your answer, said Wu Yong calmly. As for the Wu clan, from now on I, Wu Yong, will serve as the head. Very good. The head of Zhu clan walked up and said. The life force from his body was almost intimidating. It exerted huge pressure over everyone. He looked toward Wu Yong and said, I will leave the death of the ex-head of Zhu clan. The ancestral lands have been the common heritage of we 9 clans for many years, but now it just disappeared. Wu Yong, shouldn't you give us an explanation? I have no idea why the ancestral lands disappeared, but if Lord Yi indeed unlocked the secret left by Emperor Kwa, and became Emperor Kwa's inheritor, shouldn't the 9 clans follow the clan doctrine and obey Yi Futian's order? Said Wu Yong. The head of Zhu clan stared at him fiercely after he asked the question. There was indeed such a clan doctrine in the 9 clans. But how could the 9 clans let their people submit to Yi Futian and listen to his order? The heads of the 9 clans were all of Nirvana Plain. They were the lords who ruled the west land of Crimson Dragon's realm. If Yi Futian unlocked the secret treasure left by Emperor Kwa, should they choose to steal from him, or to submit to him? Such a simple question that everyone should have an answer to. He didn't need to overthink it. If Lord Yi made it, will the 9 clans agree to submit? If not, why do you keep asking? continued Wu Yong. Since the 9 clans invited all warriors, they are here to help us. Now the site has disappeared, and we should put an end to all this. No warriors had expected Wu Yong would defend for Yi Futian like this. Xia Qingyuan and others had figured out what the whole story was like. It was simple and banal. So you mean we 9 clans shouldn't even ask about the disappearance of the ancestral lands? Just let it go. A warrior of the Chong clan also said in a slightly hostile tone. The death of the head of the Wu clan was Wu clan's own business. They could ignore it. But how could they easily let go of ancestral lands left by Emperor Kwa? What do you want to do? Asked Xia Qingyuan, standing next to Yi Futian in a cold voice. It sounded like the 9 clans were reluctant to let Yi Futian go. Lord Yi, please stay in Emperor Kwa's city to cooperate with the 9 clans' investigation into the thing that happened in ancestral lands. If our investigation proves it is not related to you, then we will see you off, said one person. Xia Qingyuan released the cold wool from her body, letting Yi Futian stay. She was certain that Yi Futian had gotten something, and warriors of all clans must have known something about it. Obviously, they wanted to mug Yi Futian for what he got in the Emperor Kwa's site. Once they did it, they would wipe him out. Of course, he couldn't stay here. Go away, said Xia Qingyuan cold. She released the cold will. She said, we were invited to come to the ancestral lands and open the door for you. Is this how you treat us? A gust of will befell after the 2 words go away came out of her mouth. Warriors of clans thought to themselves that no wonder the princess of Emperor Xia's realm could be so arrogant. But even though they were not afraid that Nirvana Plain warriors of Emperor Xia's realm would come, they didn't dare to touch Xia Qingyuan. If they touched the daughter of Ren Huang and Emperor Xia came for revenge, that would be beyond Emperor Crimson Dragon's governance. Yi Futian also looked cold. He had already expected the way all these clans behaved. From their point of view, of course, they wanted to take Emperor Kwa's treasure as their own. It was because they couldn't take it that they invited them. The atmosphere became quite depressing. Shen Tianzhan appeared in front of Yi Futian. He stood with Wu Yong. Both of them were of Nirvana Plain. However, compared with the other 8 clans, their power seemed not worth mentioning. Lord Yi, you are placing us in a difficult situation, said the warrior of Zhu clan slowly. Is this your way of treating guests? At that moment a voice came. Many people followed the voice and expressed surprise when they saw the speaker. The one who asked the question was the prince of Emperor Dong's palace, Duan Wuji. The people of the clans didn't expect he would say something. A warrior of Chong clan said to Duan Wuji, Your Highness, the issue is about the ancestral lands of our 9 clans. We must be cautious about this thing. The Chong clan used to collaborate with the Emperor Dong's palace. This time they didn't want to offend Duan Wuji. Since Duan Wuji's power was not in other realms, he was the Runhuang power, which ruled the East Land in Crimson Dragon's realm. Duan Wuji flashed a smile and said, We were invited to unlock the secret of Emperor Kwa's relic. But today, it seems that even if one of us succeeds, you will still not let him go. It doesn't sound like cooperation. If I were the one who had made it, perhaps I would be the one who had to face the situation today. The person of Chong clan didn't know how to reply after listening to Duan Wuji's words. If Duan Wuji had been the person who opened the secret of the ancestral lands, would they force him to stay? Everybody just let that be the end, Duan Wuji said calmly. Even Yi Futian took a glance at him in surprise. He didn't expect that Duan Wuji would speak for him. During the Battle of Ancestral Lands, Duan Wuji was defeated by Yi Futian and got burned by his flame of the way. Your Highness, this thing is related to the future of our 9 clans, said the warrior of the Chong clan. Obviously, he still didn't want to let it go even though Duan Wuji had expressed his attitude. As far as I know, if there were no external assistance, the 9 clans would not be able to step inside the ancestral lands, said Duan Wuji. If the 9 clans were indeed so altruistic, how about you work together and share Emperor Kwa's heritage with all of us? Your Highness, this thing is not Emperor Dong's palace's business, said the head of Zhu clan. Since I am on the trip, of course, I am involved in this, said Duan Wuji. He is right. Since we were invited to the ancestral lands, we are related. Let's leave the issue aside in case the prestige of the 9 clans is affected, another voice said. People of clans all frowned. The speaker was another Renhuang descendant, Emperor Wu's princess Yin Tianjiao. The two were Yi Futian's strongest competitors, but were all defeated by him. Now they both spoke for Yi Futian. Was it out of respect between heroes? People of clans began to look uneasy. People from Emperor Xia's realm, warriors of Thousand Leaves City, Wu Yong, and others from Wu clan, besides the powers of 2 Renhuang realms. Such a team was awesome enough. Xia Qingyuan saw Yin Tianjiao talk, and took a look at Yi Futian. Yi Futian had a strange expression on his face too. Obviously, the thing was also out of his expectations. Yin Tianjiao showed no mercy to him in ancestral lands. Who could expect today both warriors could speak for him? If you find any errors, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know so we can fix it as soon as possible. The atmosphere in this space felt kind of weird. Suddenly, everyone fell silent. The atmosphere in this space felt kind of weird. Suddenly, everyone fell silent. The people who were present today were from everywhere in the world. The 9 clans and the warriors, who were invited by them, all had different thoughts. Even the 9 clans were not completely united. For example, Wu Yong was on Yi Futian's side. You are right. Since Lord Yi was invited to the ancestral lands, we should respect what happened in the ancestral lands. If we have to investigate, Lord Yi obtained the secret of Emperor Kwa. So is everyone willing to let him lead the 9 clans? At that moment, another voice came. This time, even the warrior of the Zhu clan couldn't help but squint his eyes and see the one who was talking. The speaker was the head of one of the 9 clans, the Bailey clan. He didn't agree to look into the case either. Inside the 9 clans, 2 clans had shown their agreement. Yi Futian just stood there quietly and witnessed the scene. He saw each one show their attitude, and thought that, since all these big figures had their own thoughts, and competition within the 9 clans was severe, it was likely that the Zhu clan and the Chong clan wanted to prosecute him, because they wanted to get the secret from him. Other clans also had their own thoughts. They might not be united as one. In terms of power, the Bailey clan was just average among the 9 clans. However, the current situation seemed like even though the other 7 clans wanted to prosecute him, they would not be able to do it. The head of the Zhurong clan with vigorous life force took a glance at the crowd, a glance at warriors of the Wu clan and Bailey clan, and then a glance at Duan Wuji and Yin Tianjiao. He let out a laugh, then started talking. Since you said so, I will not insist on it, but it doesn't mean I will put it to an end. Some things have to be figured out. After saying that, he turned around and said, gesturing to his people, let's go. Warriors of the Zhu clan followed him and left. Seeing them leaving, warriors of other clans no longer insisted, and gradually all returned to their respective clans. Many people of Crimson Dragon Realm gathered, and watched the scene from a distance. Although the incidents had temporarily ended, Yi Futian probably obtained a lot from the relics of Emperor Kwa. However, it would be far from putting an end to it. Today, although Duan Wuji of Emperor Dong's palace and Princess Yin Tianjiao of Emperor Wu had expressed their attitudes, it might simply have been because they didn't agree with the 9 clans today. They would not stay with Yi Futian forever, so that Yi Futian couldn't be secure all the time. If later anything happened, Emperor Dong's palace and Emperor Wu's realm would not intervene. Yi Futian watched the people of clans leaving. His eyes were frozen straight ahead. He looked into the distance, absorbed in thought. What happened? Asked Xia Qingyuan. Nothing, said Yi Futian, who soon distracted himself from the thought. He cupped his hands as a salute, and said to Duan Wuji and Yin Tianjiao smiling, I should thank you both for your support. I don't like their attitude. Don't need to take them seriously, said Duan Wuji with a lazy smile. I still want to test your real strength if there is an opportunity. They only used the will of flame and forging to fight when they were in the ancestral lands, which could not reflect their real strengths. Although Emperor Dong's palace was good at the god-devouring fire, the art of flame was only one of their cultivation methods. He was aware of it, so was Yi Futian. Nobody had expected Yi Futian would win, because they had no idea of Yi Futian's real strength, not to mention his attainment of flame art. Now his attainment of flame art had been proved to be strong. His ability in other areas shouldn't be weak, either. If there were a chance, he would want to test how strong the Thousand Leaves City Lord's real strength was. Good, said Yi Futian, nodding with a smile. Duan Wuji left with his people. Yin Tianjiao took a glance at him and turned around without saying anything. Yi Futian didn't keep it in mind, but Xia Qingyuan had a strange look on her face and looked at Yi Futian with her beautiful eyes. Why are you looking at me? Asked Yi Futian. He felt something weird. Why did she look at him like that? Nothing, said Xia Qingyuan. She turned her eyes away. Let's leave as soon as possible. After all, the West Land belonged to the 9 clans. Yi Futian nodded and looked toward Wu Yong, asking, Sir, will the Zhu clan bring trouble to you? The Wu clan used to depend on the Zhu clan indirectly, but now they had turned on them. Maybe the Zhu clan would seek revenge. The possibility was not low. Wu Yong slightly frowned. Obviously he had such worry too. Yi Futian looked toward the people surrounding him and said, I was invited by the current head of Wu clan, Wu Yong, to enter Emperor Kua's relics and obtain his heritage. During this trip, I received a lot of care from Sir Wu Yong. If one day, the Wu clan is attacked by any other clans because of this, I, Yi Futian, will regard it as the 9 clans' injustice and make Emperor Kua's heritage open to the world. His words stirred people. How dare this guy threaten the 9 clans? Emperor Kua's heritage was stored in the ancestral lands and could only be obtained after entering the ancestral lands. There were several clans among the 9 clans who hadn't obtained it yet. However, Yi Futian now declared he might reveal the heritage to the world, which the 9 clans would definitely not allow. Of course, if the 9 clans don't do so, I will carefully guard the heritage and return it to the 9 clans and leak it to no one, continued Yi Futian. The warriors of the Bailey clan looked toward Yi Futian. The head of the Bailey clan said, The 9 clans are supposed to be united as one. The Bailey clan will not sit by and watch as inner conflict happens. After hearing what you said, I feel much relieved. Thank you very much for your help this time. If the cultivators of the Bailey clan can spare time, please come visit the Thousand Leaves City, said Yi Futian. Currently, I have only passed the heritage to the Wu clan, but if the 9 clans can be united as one and won't separate, I welcome all cultivators follow the Wu clan cultivators and come discuss the cultivation of fire art with me. Obviously, Yi Futian was indicating that he was eager to return the favor since the Bailey clan had helped him. Yi Futian was not a selfish person. Besides, Emperor Kua's heritage was supposed to belong to the 9 clans. He would have no complaints if he passed it to someone he could trust. Making friends was better than making enemies. Of course, if the head of Bailey clan were like the head of Wu clan or the Zhu clan, things would be different. Great. I will come to visit Lord Yi in Thousand Leaves City one day, said the head of Bailey clan. He offered help to Yi Futian because of this. Besides, according to Emperor Kua's doctrine, Yi Futian had the right to rule over the 9 clans, if he had really obtained everything. It was just because he was still young, and his plane was not high enough to convince others that the Nirvana plane leaders of the 9 clans wouldn't accept his rule. The Bailey clan was not willing to see his rule, either, but it didn't mean they didn't want to tie the bond with him now. Given the talent Yi Futian had shown on this trip, even though his current plane was low, in the future, he might become a figure like Emperor Kua. If that day came, he might as well lead the Bailey clan since he had inherited Emperor Kua's relics. I should leave now, sir, said Yi Futian with a salute. Lord Yi, please take care, said the head of Bailey clan. Yi Futian then said farewell to Wu Yong and left with his people. In the void sky, everyone thought that this guy might have again plundered Emperor Kua's ancestral lands. Xia Qingyuan took a look at him and sent the message. What did you do? How did you make their ancestral lands disappear? Nothing, just with luck, replied Yi Futian. For him, being able to unlock the gate of ancestral lands meant he was capable of inheriting the Emperor Kua's path. As for what he did after that, he had just depended on his luck, life spirit, and the Emperor's will. Otherwise, he would not have devoured the spirit orb in the sun. Xia Qingyuan gave him a stare. Luck, Why did no one else have luck as good as his? Besides, it was not the first time that he got good luck. Then what did you obtain? Xiaqing Yuan asked bluntly. Perhaps she thought she and Yi Futian were close enough, so she could ask like this. Otherwise, she should have avoided asking about Renhuang's secret, just like Shen Tianzhan and others did. Of course, Yi Futian knew it too. Xiaqing Yuan was not interested in occupying what he got. I don't know either. A strange expression suddenly flashed across Yi Futian's face. In his life palace, the world tree turned a crimson color. A blazing orb was floating in his life spirit, and the life spirit was devouring its energy bit by bit. Above the life spirit world tree, Yi Futian's sun spirit was greedily swallowing the life force of the flame and becoming more dazzling. What pissed Yi Futian off was that he had forged many wills, including some wisps of Renhuang wills. Even though they were not his ability, he could use them to fight and threaten opponents of higher planes. But now they were all devoured. The orb in the sun was like an abyss. When it was triggered, the whole relics was devoured, and the sky and earth disappeared. All the wills Yi Futian had forged were all swallowed by it. Yi Futian's heart was bleeding. The energy of this thing was horrifying. No doubt that Imperial Advisor once tried all methods, even including putting Fei Shui to sleep, to suppress the thing in her body, in case she exploded and died. If the treasure indeed exploded, no one knew how terrifying the outcome would be. According to her plan, Fei Shui was unable to endure it. Thinking about Fei Shui, Yi Futian didn't know where Yin Yuan and others were in Crimson Dragon Realm. They must have reached and been cultivating somewhere. Imperial Advisor was imprisoned in Dali Imperial Palace. Yin Yuan and Fei Shui must be working hard to level up their skills. After Yi Futian and others reached Thousand Leaves City, the news began to sweep across the Crimson Dragon Realm and spread to other realms. Lord Yi Futian of Thousand Leaves City not only inherited Emperor Qua's path, but also unlocked the Emperor Qua's ancient secret and let Emperor Qua's relics directly disappeared. It was said that the treasure obtained by Yi Futian was probably of Renhuang level. The news immediately caused a sensation after being released. Even the Crimson Dragon Realm and cities around the Crimson Dragon Realm came to know about it. If you find any errors, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know so we can fix it as soon as possible. Yi Futian had been cultivating in seclusion after returning to Thousand Leaves City. Yi Futian had been cultivating in seclusion after returning to Thousand Leaves City. He knew this thing would bring about a new tumult. Not to mention that the 9 clans would not just let him go. Many top figures in Crimson Dragon Realm must also have wanted to take it as their own. Nobody knew what he had obtained, and that was why they were more curious about it. Besides, since receiving the Emperor Qua's cultivation law before entering the relics, everyone was speculating. What thing did Emperor Qua leave that was even more precious than his heritage of cultivation path? The world of cultivators was always cruel. Few people were willing to offer help, but many people were waiting to kick someone when that person was down or benefited from other people's misery. As long as someone wanted to lay a hand on him, other people would soon join the pillage. Yi Futian's thought was not wrong. Now, there were voices outside saying that although Emperor Xia's realm supported Yi Futian, a Renhuang realm would not bring a big surge in Crimson Dragon Realm. As long as Xiaqing Yuan was safe, Emperor Xia's realm wouldn't take action. If many people wanted to lay a hand on Yi Futian at the same time, even Emperor Xia wouldn't do anything. The people who talked about this must have had evil intentions, but such remarks were also frank. If a lot of top figures besieged Yi Futian, would Emperor Xia's realm come to challenge the powers of Crimson Dragon Realm? It was impossible. Time flew by, and soon, the year 10024 of Divine Prefecture calendar was near its end. During this period, many people flowed into Thousand Leaves City from everywhere in the world. The city was more bustling than ever before. The newcomers' levels differed, some were strong, and some were weak. As for their reason for coming, everyone knew the answer. In addition, there was another piece of news related to Thousand Leaves City, which caused an uproar in Crimson Dragon City. The news even deterred quite a lot of people who wanted to lay a hand on Yi Futian's treasure, and forced them to give up the idea. The news came from the regional palace that a new name would appear in the regional king ranking of this year. And the name belonged to a young person who just came to cultivation in regional palace this year. It was Yu Sheng of Thousand Leaves City. He had just come to the regional palace for a few months and entered the regional king ranking. People of Crimson Dragon Realm, of course, all knew the value of regional king ranking. The regional place was the top sacred land for cultivation in Crimson Dragon Realm, and the regional king ranking was perceived as the top ranking in Crimson Dragon Realm. Besides, the candidates were not restricted to be cultivators in the regional palace. All cultivators of Crimson Dragon Realm were included. Every candidate who entered the ranking would attract great attention. The ranking only listed candidates of Saint Plain. Cultivators of all levels of Saint's Plain were welcome and wouldn't be judged by levels. The regional palace had never clarified the judgment standard of regional king palace, which made it look like an unknown amateur ranking. Even so, whenever a new name appeared on the regional king ranking, it would cause an uproar. Before Yu Sheng, there were 17 names on the regional king ranking. Including him, there were only 18 people. These people covered all 4 levels of the Saint Plain. The elder brother of Xing Qiu of the ancient imperial city, Xing Kai, who used to compete with Yu Sheng for the right to enter the regional palace, was also one on the regional king ranking. Although the regional palace had never mentioned what the regional king ranking represented, the people of Crimson Dragon Realm all claimed the ones chosen by the regional king ranking probably would become future Renhuangs of Crimson Dragon Realm. This also meant that the 18 warriors on the regional king ranking had the potential to enter Renhuang Realm. One could tell how meaningful it was that Yu Sheng entering regional king ranking. It was much harder than entering the regional palace. And so, those who wanted to lay a hand on Yi Futian must think twice about Yu Sheng's existence. Even if they got rid of Yi Futian, who could beat the person who cultivated in the regional palace, entered the regional king ranking, and might enter the Nirvana plane in the future? Nowadays, all the Nirvana saints on the regional king ranking were almost invincible in the Crimson Dragon Realm. And this cultivator of the regional palace was listed in the regional king ranking. Few people could achieve this in Crimson Dragon Realm. The Emperor Crimson Dragon was the one who stood behind the regional palace. Yi Futian and Yu Sheng were both extraordinarily talented, and both belonged to Emperor Xia's realm. Thus, many people decided to give up the thought and not get involved. Considering these factors, even if they participated, they might not get anything and even become Yi Futian and Yu Sheng's enemy, so they'd better choose to become a quiet audience. One day, a guest came to visit the Lord residence and requested to meet Yi Futian. Yi Futian met him, a warrior of Flaming Prison City. This time, Flaming Prison City also participated in the trip to Emperor Kwa relics. They acquired the Flame of the Way and entered the relics in cooperation with the Bailey clan. The warrior of the Flame Prison City was clear about all that had happened. In the guest hall of the Lord residence, Yi Futian sat in the host seat. The warrior of the Flaming Prison City said, "Lord Yi, allow me to be straightforward." "Sure. Sir, please speak freely," said Yi Futian, nodding. He didn't like talking in circles either. This time, during the trip to Emperor Kwa relics, Lord Yi demonstrated extraordinary skills and must have gained a lot of relics. Whether it was the cultivation heritage or other secrets left by Emperor Kwa, the things have already attracted the attention of many powers in Crimson Dragon Realm. Now many powers have gathered in Thousand Leaves City, and top agents have all arrived, said the warrior of the Flaming Prison City. Yi Futian listened to him quietly without a reply. The warrior of the Flaming Prison City paused a second, took a look at Yi Futian and continued, "I would suggest that there is no need for Lord Yi to wait and guard. Just as Lord Yi said in the West Land, since the 9 clans will not simply let you go, how about trading Emperor Kwa's heritage and secrets with others? If so, all powers can be satisfied, and Lord Yi will also receive bountiful resources for cultivation." His words seemed to have aroused Yi Futian's interest. Yi Futian had to admit that this warrior of the Flaming Prison City indeed provided a solution which could help his situation. If he did so, he could probably solve the current plight. Obviously, the warrior specially came here for this. The warrior continued, I think Lord Yi has understood what I came here for. Flaming Prison City is willing to take Emperor Kwa's heritage at a high cost. Of course, if Lord Yi thinks Flaming Prison City is not capable of affording your price, in the future, we can be on your side whenever you have any difficulties, including this time. Yi Futian took a look at him. This time, the Flaming Prison City was quite sincere. If he said yes from now on, he would have one more friend. On the contrary, if he refused, he would very likely push Flaming Prison City and make it become one of the powers who tried to grab his treasure. He tapped his finger on the armrest of the throne. It was indeed an interesting deal he wanted to think over. He would not possibly take out the flame orb devoured by his life spirit, but Emperor Kwa's heritage path seemed tradable. However, it didn't seem to be a morally correct thing to do. If he did so, the 9 clans below the Emperor Kwa would definitely abhor him and try to eradicate him with all their effort. Yi Futian thought for a moment and soon stopped tapping his finger. He said with a smile, Sir, I deeply appreciate your kindness. It's just that, although many people of Emperor Kwa clans behaved unfairly, I believe it was not every clan member's attitude. The 9 clans will think that since Emperor Kwa left the heritage in the ancestral lands, he must have left it to his descendants. I accidentally obtained it, but if I sold it to a random person, that would be extremely disrespectful toward Emperor Kwa, His Majesty and the clans. So, said Yi Futian smiling, please try to understand. The warrior paused a second when he saw how resolute Yi Futian was in his rejection, but then he put on a smile without saying anything. Given Yi Futian's personality reflected during the trip to the relics, he guessed Yi Futian should be a man of determination, and since he had declined, there was no point to keep trying to persuade him. If so, we should go now. Sorry to bother you, Lord Yi, said the warrior of Flaming Prison City. Soon he cupped his hand as a courtesy and left. Yi Futian seemed lost in thought for a moment after they left. He didn't know if Flaming Prison City would go to the opposite side. Flaming Prison City was just the beginning. Later, Crimson Cloud City, Yin City, and other top powers, which specialized in flame, all came to visit as if they had a tacit agreement. But their goals were all similar to Flaming Prison Cities. They wanted to get what Emperor Kwa had left in a mild approach. However, they were all declined by Yi Futian. Some people acted politely before they left, but some also left with a hostile attitude. The year was almost over, and news had spread that the Lord Residence rejected many people. Many people wondered what Yi Futian was thinking. Was he not worried at all? Even the normal cultivators in Thousand Leaves City had apparently perceived that there were special, powerful cultivators everywhere in Thousand Leaves City. Finally, the year 10024 of Divine Prefecture calendar had come to an end. In the Lord Residence of Thousand Leaves City, Yi Futian quietly sat in the courtyard and looked up to the sky. 1 year had passed, and as his cultivation had leveled up, it seemed that time passed even faster. Sometimes, he wouldn't even realize a period of cultivation would take such a long time. Many things had happened this year and had much influence on him. Dali Imperial Advisor was deprived of power and imprisoned in the Emperor Li's palace. Whether Jiyu was alive or dead was unknown, and he didn't know when he could go find her. Currently, he had not been able to have a firm standing in Crimson Dragon Realm, and because of the Emperor Kwa's relic, he roused a huge uproar. But for this, his reaction was quite calm. Maybe he had been used to it. After experiencing so many storms, now his state of mind was as calm as still water when he faced things. Time had changed him a lot, but the only thing that didn't change was that he was more and more eager for real strength as his ability grew. The more powerful he became, the more eager he was for cultivating real strength. At some time, Xiaqing Yuan showed up beside Yi Futian and said, Now the storm and cloud have converged in Thousand Leaves City. Many warriors have actually arrived. Are you ready to deal with them? No, replied Yi Futian. Xiaqing Yuan looked at him. Yi Futian turned around and smiled at her, saying, Those who should come will come. Just send our generals to defend against their soldiers. Let our soil soak their blood. They can't raise a big tide. If you find any errors, broken links, non-standard content, etc. Please let us know so we can fix it as soon as possible. Somewhere in Crimson Dragon Realm, in a courtyard. Somewhere in Crimson Dragon Realm, in a courtyard. At this moment, someone was cultivating. She wore plain clothes, and the life force that emanated from her body was horrifying. There was a kind of mysterious energy like a primitive beast roaring from her body, which elicited the endless law, while dripping down from the sky and earth. The whole space was enveloped by a kind of terrible energy, and compressed to the extreme. An unclear booming sound came from her fragile body, as if the strong power was purging her flesh, bones, and blood. She seemed to be enduring intense fear, and looked to be suffering, but she was still holding on. Suddenly, as if a gust of energy went out of control, the flow of all the law between the sky and earth was disturbed. Tui! She spat out blood and ceased cultivating. Her life force was not stable. Even though she tried to restrain the energy in her body, it was still too wild to control. Fei Shui, a person and called. So the cultivating lady was Dali Imperial Advisor's daughter Fei Shui. This group of people had borrowed way from Emperor Xia's palace, and had come to Crimson Dragon Realm. They didn't expose their identity, and focused on cultivating here. But since they escaped from the Dali Empire, would Emperor Li just let it go? A mysterious power surged from Sir Nanjai's body, which enveloped Fei Shui, and retrained the matrix inside her. Only after did the disordered flow gradually calm down. Second brother, don't worry, I am okay, said Fei Shui to Sir Nanjai. Even though she couldn't see, the smile on her face was still sweet, and she didn't forget to wipe off the blood from her mouth. Just look how tired you are, said Sir Nanjai. Fei Shui, your physique is unique, and that thing was in your body. Although it affects you, it also provides you with an extraordinary condition to cultivate. You were born with the body of law, and since you have entered the Saint Plane, you don't need to hurry to achieve anything. Just take your time to cultivate, and your cultivation speed will only be faster than others. Yes, Fei Shui said, smiling. I will keep it in mind. Every time you talk like this, but why did you hurt yourself again since you said you would keep it in mind? A harsh voice asked. Fei Shui turned around to face the speaker. Although she couldn't see the speaker's face, she lowered her head and said in a soft voice, Elder brother. Yin Yuan looked at her. Although he looked emotionless, he worried a lot about her. But he still talked to her in a serious way. Fei Shui, I know you are eager to grow, but cultivation is not a thing you can accomplish in a day. Otherwise, all your efforts will be in vain. Besides, currently you are not able to endure the energy in your body. From now on, I will not allow you to cultivate using it. Fei Shui lowered her head, and didn't say anything. Elder brother, don't be too harsh on her. Fei Shui doesn't want to do it either, said Sir Nanjai to Yin Yuan. But he only met Yin Yuan's sharp eyes. Suddenly, Sir Nanjai turned his head as if he didn't notice. He was older than Yin Yuan, but as the master's disciple, she should call Yin Yuan elder brother. Fei Shui, master asked me to take care of you. I don't want to see that when we go to see master. He will be fine, but you can't pull through, said Yin Yuan. He didn't want to be so harsh, but Fei Shui was the master's only daughter. For them, an elder brother was like a brother as well as a father. He was like a real senior brother to them. But Fei Shui wanted to level up quickly and deploy the power in his body by force, which was totally out of her control. If anything went wrong and the seal was broken, she would be eternally doomed. Okay, I see. Sorry, brother, said Fei Shui softly with her head lowered. Tomorrow will be the beginning of a new year. Don't tire yourself out. Rest. Yin Yuan didn't have the heart to keep putting on a serious face. Yes, said Fei Shui nodding. I need to go outside. Nanjai, you and Chunyang, please take care of Fei Shui, said Yin Yuan. Sir Nanjai nodded and said yes. Yin Yuan turned around and walked away. Fei Shui has confusion and asked, Sir, today is the last day of the year. Shouldn't the elder brother have dinner with us? What is he going to do? Nothing. Maybe he is going to find resources for cultivation, said Sir Nanjai in a soft voice. Okay. Fei Shui nodded and stopped asking. Her father, and the brothers were supposed to gather in the imperial advisor's residence and enjoy a simple dinner at the end of each year. They didn't know whether there would be such a day in the future. The year 10025 of Divine Prefecture calendar finally arrived. It was the first day of the year. On this day, a large group of warriors paid an unexpected visit to the Lord residence of Thousand Leaves City and requested to see Yi Futian. The visitors were warriors of the Wu clan, one of the 9 clans in the west land of Crimson Dragon Realm. Wu Yong led the warriors to come here in person. Seeing Wu Yong suddenly come, Yi Futian knew something must have happened and went in front of them. Lord Yi, Wu Yong saluted, his expression serious. What brings you here, sir? Asked Yi Futian. Things went wrong in Wu clan, said Wu Yong. Yi Futian frowned. He had cautioned the Zhu clan that if they dared to touch the Wu clan, he would make the Emperor Qua's heritage open to the world. Even so, the warriors of the Zhu clan still dared to lay a hand on them? Didn't they care about their Runhuang ancestors' heritage? What happened? Asked Yi Futian. Lord Yi, when we entered the ancestral lands, there were several elder warriors who were the core figures of the Wu clan entering with us. But as the saying goes, a man's heart is incomprehensible. Now some of them have been enticed by the Zhu clan, probably promised generous rewards. They have betrayed our clan and turned to the Zhu clan, said Wu Yong. Yi Futian's face turned slightly pale. The warriors who entered the ancestral lands were the absolute core of the Wu clan. But even among them, some betrayed the clan. This meant warriors of the Zhu clan or other clans had known what had happened inside the site. During that time, he got into the sun and devoured the whole ancestral lands. The people who witnessed it, of course, knew that there was some unusual thing inside the sun that triggered the vision. Besides, the thing was even more precious than Emperor Qua's heritage of path. Otherwise, it wouldn't be the most difficult to obtain. All the people of the 9 clans must desire it, since it was indeed the ultimate treasure, or chance left by a Renhuang. And on such an occasion, it was very likely that the 9 clans would want to take it back at all costs. What did they do to the Wu clan? Asked Yi Futian. They said I colluded with Lord Yi and killed the ex-head. They also caused an uproar within the Wu clan with the ex-head's followers. The warriors of the Zhu clan and the Chong clan came when we were in trouble and tried to control the Wu clan, swallowing us completely, said Wu Yong. So I had to leave the clan with a group of people and came here. I am afraid they will arrive too. Coldness flashed across Yi Futian's face. He knew that the Zhu clan would not dare to attack the Wu clan for fear of his threat. That was why they tried to disintegrate the Wu clan in such a way to force the Wu clan to yield. Sir, how about you temporarily stay with me? Said Yi Futian. Wu Yong looked toward Yi Futian and asked, Lord Yi, are you sure? This time, since all clans had known about the relics, they must try their best to take the thing back. So the next time, Yi Futian would not only face one clan, or 1 or 2 Nirvana saints. Even though he had the support of Emperor Xia's realm, it would be hard for him to deal with so many powers. Sir, I remember you said that since I inherited the relics, I should be able to command the 9 clans. Is that true? Asked Yi Futian. Wu Yong gave him a surprised look. What did Yi Futian mean? He should know it well. Even though the ancestral doctrine said so, would the 9 clans really follow it? In principle, it should be so, replied Wu Yong. Good, Yi Futian said, nodding. If so, it was unjust for the 9 clans to attack him. Sir, the Wu clan's crisis is only temporary, said Yi Futian. One day it will prosper again. Wu Yong was confused, but he still nodded. The trip to ancestral lands made him somewhat understand Yi Futian's personality. In the beginning, he didn't compete with others, and even gave way to Yin Tian. But when it was his time to fight, he wouldn't yield to anyone. He only wanted what was supposed to belong to him. The ex-head wanted to take the heritage as his own, so Yi Futian directly enticed him to expose his goal, and killed him at once. Yi Futian said so, which meant he had the confidence. Did it mean there were top figures of Emperor Xia's realm, staying in Thousand Leaves City right now? Let's go. Take a rest in the residence, said Yi Futian. The group of people followed him, and entered the Lord residence. At this moment, outside the Thousand Leaves City, seen from a distance, There was blazing fire force reaching to the sky. A group of warriors was quickly heading toward the Thousand Leaves City and stepping across the gate. Local people looked up to the sky and only felt a gust of scorching life force sweeping between the sky and earth. Above the sky dome, golden ravens were crossing the sky. Vermilion birds spread their wings and covered the sun. Sun chariots were loaded with warriors and rushing forward, of which the wool trembled in the sky. The intimidating army drove into Thousand Leaves City on the first day of a new year. Suddenly, numerous people in Thousand Leaves City were in shock. "We are here," they said to each other. Emperor Qua's clans in the west land of Crimson Dragon Realm had no leader since the death of Emperor Qua. Emperor Qua's heritage, craved by many of them, was obtained by Lord Yi. "Now their army has arrived. The Lord residents will be in danger," someone said. They watched the fire deity-like warriors teleporting and heading toward the direction of Lord residents. These days, the top figures of Crimson Dragon Realm had been focusing on the 9 clans' action, as well as the Thousand Leaves City. Now all the clans had reached. The top figures of Crimson Dragon Realm had received the message beforehand and was ready to take action. In the following hours, people continued to enter Thousand Leaves City. Suddenly, at the beginning of the year, Thousand Leaves City became a spotlight of the realm, where all strong warriors convened. At this moment, a group of warriors was coming in the void air. The one who led the group was Xiang Nan of Xiang City. This time he also brought warriors of Xiang City. The last time they were hard to intervene in the rivalry between Emperor Xia's realm and Emperor Li's realm, since it was a battle between 2 Renhuang realms. But this time, they only needed to aim at Yi Futian. If you find any errors, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know so we can fix it as soon as possible. In Thousand Leaves City, there were countless people on their way to the Lord residence. In Thousand Leaves City, there were countless people on their way to the Lord residence. Warriors of the Sita clan were heading toward the Lord residence too. At this moment, a horrifying will came from the void. Situ Yin raised her head and saw a large group of warriors flying across the sky. The sun rays fell on them as if merging in their bodies, extremely dazzling. They are the 9 clans in Emperor Qua's territory, Situ Yin thought to herself. She felt worried since she had just received the message that the army of the West Land would enter the city, so she hurried to the Lord residence. However, the 9 clans had already passed in front of them. How would the Lord residents go through this battle against these warriors? Situ Yin was a little worried. She heard that when Yi Futian in the West Land, Emperor Qua's clans didn't lay a hand on him, because several warriors who battled with him spoke for him. But this time, they directly broke into the city. It was not likely that they would easily give up. "What did that guy take away from them?" said the lord of the Sita clan, Sita Zhong, in a low voice. There was a tinge of worry in his eyes. Confronting such a large lineup, there would be a cruel defeat waiting for Yi Futian if he refused to take the thing out. In recent years, Yi Futian and Yu Sheng from Emperor Xia's realm had become legendary figures. One of them entered the regional palace and was ranked on the list of regional king ranking. As for Yi Futian, although he didn't have an outstanding grade like Yu Sheng did, he led the battle between 2 Renhuang realms and defeated so many rivals in Emperor Qua's ruins. It was said that the regional palace's glory, Emperor Wu's princess Yin Tianjiao, and the prince of East Palace, Duan Wuji, was also defeated by him. Although nobody knew what happened in the ruins, it also proved how unusual he was. They had unlimited potential, and their future would not be restricted to Thousand Leaves City. He didn't want to see anything bad happen to them. He wanted to witness their bright future. In the void, more warriors had arrived. "The Black Flame clan came here to add trouble too," said Situ Zhong, frowning. He knew many warriors were staying in Thousand Leaves City, especially the ones who were good at flame skills. They should be more interested in Emperor Qua's treasure. They came so fast. All the people of Thousand Leaves City could feel that an enormous storm would break out in the city. This storm would be no smaller than the battle between 2 Renhuang realms. During the rivalry between 2 Renhuang realms, both sides deployed 4 Nirvana Plane figures, and the warriors covered the whole 8 Saint Plains. But this time, if the 9 clans were all present, there would be 9 Nirvana plane figures present. And the number 9 did not include Nirvana warriors from Thousand Leaves City and elsewhere. One could see how intimidating the battle lineup was. Thinking about this, many people showed weird looks. Before Futian and others entered Thousand Leaves City, Thousand Leaves City had never experienced a storm like this. Not only in the Thousand Leaves City, but such a storm was also rare in the cities outside Crimson Dragon City. But since Futian came, it had happened again and again. However, in history, the rise of a legendary figure also accompanied crises more serious than anyone else had ever seen. The Thousand Leaves City Lord Futian might be a figure like this. It was just that this time, would he pass smoothly through the storm? Everything was as usual in the Lord residence. There was no tension at all. Futian even hosted a banquet for the warriors of Wu clan. Besides, the banquet was set in the main palace of the Lord residence, where they could see the scenery in the distance. People of the Lord residence didn't know what he was thinking. He was not worried at all. But Shen Tianzhan looked quite calm too. He would lend a hand, since the Lord residence was in crisis. Since he had promised to stay and be the deputy lord, he would try his best to assist. He expected Futian's growth. Besides, Shen Tianzhan knew that no matter what the outcome was, at least he would not be in danger. Although he had promised to assist Futian, when it was a moment of life and death, he would not die for Futian. Their friendship hadn't gotten to that stage. Futian knew it well too. There were not many people in this world like Dali Imperial Advisor. At this moment, Wu Yong was telling Futian information about each clan's real strength. In addition to the strongest Nirvana saints, Emperor Qua's 9 clans also had several unblemished plain warriors. After listening, Futian couldn't help but comment that the 9 clans who ruled the west land of Crimson Dragon Realm indeed had intimidating power. If Emperor Qua had been alive and led the 9 clans, they would have been equal to one world in Crimson Dragon Realm. The Wu clan had the least number of warriors and was relatively weak, which was the reason they kept being weakened in the political fight of the 9 clans, and had to depend on the Zhu clan. The Zhu clan's head Zhu Kong was also a top figure of the 9 clans. Among the 9 Nirvana plane figures of the 9 clans, his level was the most inestimable one, far stronger than the level of Wu clan's ex-head. Even when 2 warriors were of the same plane, there might still be a notable gap between their abilities. Otherwise, how would the Wu clan be willing to depend on them? No wonder, seeing the Wu clan in crisis, some people would rather pledge to Zhu Kong of the Zhu clan than follow you. I somehow understand it after hearing what you said Futian. When the ability of 2 sides was so clearly contrasted, it was unwise to stand with Wu Yong. It was not unusual that Zhu Kong could lead the warriors of the Zhu clan to control the Wu clan. Lord Yi, please forgive our ex-head. Part of the reason he wanted to inherit all left by Emperor Qua was because of this. The Wu clan, as one of the 9 clans, has been treated as the lowest for many years, and was under Zhu Kong's control. He also felt resentful, and wanted to reverse the situation when entering the relics, said Wu Yong. Futian nodded, he didn't mind at all. Thinking about the ex-head's situation, it was completely understandable that he made such a decision, since everyone worked for their own interest. But from Futian's standpoint, since his life was threatened, he had no choice but to eliminate him. Sir, don't worry. As the saying goes, out of the depth of misfortune comes bliss. One day, the Wu clan might unify all the 9 clans, said Futian. Wu Yong took a look at Futian in surprise and said, laughing, I hope the day will come. He then raised his head and looked into the distance. Not only him, but Shen Tianzhan also raised his head and looked into the distance. They are coming, said Wu Yong. Even though the people were still far away, they could still perceive their imposing aura. Futian had not sensed it yet, but he also looked into the distance and said, Let's go receive them. He got on his feet and walked from the Lord residence. Others followed him. Futian didn't wait on the ground outside the Lord residence. He stood on a building in front of the residence. Many warriors had converged and surrounded the Lord's residence. They looked up and wondered whether Futian had gotten ready or not. The sky in the distance turned red. A gust of intimidating might swept over. The sun chariot showed up. Zhu Kong sat on the sun chariot, surrounded by countless warriors. The giant group marched forward. Warriors of the 9 clans were all with him, each wrapped in the powerful life force of flame. The void sky seemed to be burning. The fire shot directly toward the direction of the Lord residence from afar. The sun chariot stopped in the upper sky. Warriors of all clans paused too. Their eyes of flame glared in Yi Futian's direction. It was extremely terrifying. There were warriors continually coming from all directions and landing near the Lord's residence. Warriors of the Black Flame clan have arrived. At this moment, a group of people with horrid life force came near. The person who led the group was dressed in a black robe. He was the head of the Black Flame clan. This time he came in person. The ancestor of the Black Flame clan, Emperor Black Flame, was also a Renhuang. Warriors of the Flame Prison City have also arrived. Another group of people bathed in the dazzling glow of flame came from a different direction. The person who led the group stood relaxed, like a war deity of fire. In the beginning, these powers had visited the Lord's residence, but their suggestions were all rejected by Yi Futian. This time, nobody knew if they came just to watch the battle or join the fight for Emperor Qua's heritage. Yi Futian, the figure who was standing over the sun chariot in the void sky, called. Bathed in the glare of the sun, he looked like a deity. He was the head of the Zhu clan, Zhu Kong. Emperor Qua's heritage belongs to ancestral lands of the 9 clans. You colluded with Wu Yong and killed the head of the Wu clan, took away Emperor Qua's heritage, and made the ancestral lands disappear, undermining the base of the 9 clans. Zhu Kong said in a sonorous voice while looking at Yi Futian. How do you explain this? His words spread across the void sky. Hearing what Zhu Kong said, people could tell that this time, the 9 clans were very confident to take back what Yi Futian had gotten. Besides, Zhu Kong even claimed that Yi Futian colluded with Wu Yong and killed the head of Wu clan, one of the 9 clans. They had declared his sin, which meant their side had justice. This time, they were ready to take away Yi Futian's life. Obviously, the 9 clans knew it too. Since Yi Futian had become their enemy, all they needed to do was to eradicate him, eliminating any potential risks. Zhu Kong, Wu Yong, and other Wu clan warriors around me know better than anyone else how the head of Wu clan died in the ancestral lands. You instigated in the inner conflicts of the Wu clan and tried to annex it. It is not my business, and I am not interested in asking you about things related to the 9 clan, replied Yi Futian coldly when looking at him. But if you insist on targeting me, let me ask you, since you know I have obtained Emperor Qua's heritage and inherited what Emperor Qua had left, now I am in front of you. But why don't you bow to me and regard me as your master? Under the boundless sky dome, countless people heard Yi Futian's voice and were shocked. This guy was demanding the head of the Zhu clan call him master when being besieged by the 9 clans? Even Zhu Kong's pupils contracted after hearing this. The horrifying will of blazing flame shot from his eyes and darted toward Yi Futian. You claimed Emperor Qua's relics belonged to the 9 clans. Why don't you follow Emperor Qua's last will? Continued Yi Futian. If you don't follow Emperor Qua's final will and regard me as your master, how dare you challenge me and beg for Emperor Qua's heritage? If you find any errors, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know so we can fix it as soon as possible. Yi Futian's aggressive questioning silenced the vast space around the city lord's office. Yi Futian's aggressive questioning silenced the vast space around the city lord's office. For a moment, Zhu Kong had no answer. There was nothing wrong with what Yi Futian had said. If he wanted to recognize Emperor Qua and the 9 major tribes, then he should have fulfilled his last will and testament. Obviously, this was just a raid. There was no justice in it. The so-called charges were just made-up lies. Even the heir of Emperor Qua could only come from the 9 major tribes. And how can it have anything to do with an outsider like you? Chong Lu, the chief of the Chong tribe, said with glaring eyes and stared at Yi Futian. Yi Futian looked at the other and said, Chong Lu, chief of the Chong tribe, your name came from Chonglu battle form, which boasts its legacy from Emperor Qua. Chong Lu stared at Yi Futian. Indeed, he had inherited the complete method of Emperor Kwa. He even knew of the Chonglu battle form. If it has nothing to do with outsiders, why would the 9 tribes invite the winners of the Flames of the Y to enter the ancestral lands? Yi Futian asked. Isn't it because the 9 tribes had no one, thus using the power of others to obtain the inheritance for you, and then take away from them by insidious means? Chonglu's pupils contracted slightly, and nursed a sense of extreme overbearing will. Between the opening and closing of his pupils, the shadow of a horrible war god of flame appeared in the eyes of Yi Futian, which seemed to intend on crushing him. Yi Futian's eyes likewise were burning with flames and the breath bloomed. Although none of them made a move, just one look and breath could give him a sense of extremely powerful oppression. A man of the Saint Plain from the 9 major tribes stepped out with a terrible breath upon him, staring at Yi Futian. Behind Chonglu, there was also another cultivator stepping forward and bathing in flames. Yi Futian had claimed that the 9 major tribes had no one competent left. Seeing the man who walked out, Yi Futian cast a glance at him, revealing his contempt. Being in the West for many years, it seems that the 9 major tribes have forgotten who they were, disobeying the final will and testament of Emperor Kwa. Lacking in self-awareness, Yi Futian said indifferently. Even without you, our 9 major tribes would have gotten the inheritance of Emperor Kwa sooner or later. Chongli of the Chong clan will now ask where you got your confidence from. The man saw Yi Futian's scornful look and walked toward him. He was the premier leader of the younger generation of the Chong clan, whose combat ability was extremely awesome. This time when the ancestral land was opened, he did not enter. The people within the 9 major tribes would re-enter the ancestral lands when their cultivation reached a higher level, and the chance of success would be higher then. At the same time, they would continue to invite outsiders, letting them do the bidding of the 9 ancestral lands. Yi Futian was not incorrect in saying that the 9 ancestral lands invited them, so that they could use them. But this time, the flames of the ancestral lands was robbed, and the relic of Emperor Kwa disappeared. All Chongli wanted was to inherit the relic of Emperor Kwa. However, before he could even visit the ancestral lands were gone. The Chong clan did not stop Chongli's confrontation. Chongli's talent was top-notch, and he himself was someone who was a likely genius, and could open the door of the ancestral lands, and inherit the relic of Emperor Kwa. The Chong clan always had high hopes for him, but now, everything was on Yi Futian. Chongli stepped in the void, and the might of divine path swept out and pressed against Yi Futian. Every step he took, it was like a flaming war god whose each step landed on top of Yi Futian. Who among you will make a move? Xia Qingyuan said to the people behind her. Chongli wanted to fight Yi Futian? The 9 major tribes came here with countless strong cultivators. And yet Chonglu was just a junior person, so he wanted to fight the city lord of Qinya City. But was he worthy? I'll go. A voice was heard. As the voice trailed off, a sword strike broke the air, like frightful lightning and thunder splitting the void. In the crowd, there was a figure walking forward. Between heaven and earth, the sword will filled the sky and was whistling forward. Chongli's eyes swept through the sky below, and the horrific flames of the great path burned downward, shook the space, and it seemed to be able to kill the other with a single look. But the eyes of the person who stepped out were like swords that tore everything and crushed the swordsmanship piercing him in his eyes. Boom! The will of war was so horrifying that Chongli's body seemed to have turned into a flaming of god of war. With one step, the void roared and trembled, and a large flaming footprint stepped on the void, burning the mountains and boiling the sea. The sword arrived and pierced directly into the large flaming footprint. Along with a loud sound, it penetrated it and wanted to tear it to pieces. The surrounding space also seemed on the verge of being torn apart. Chongli stepped out again. The flame of the way above his body seemed to be even more powerful and aggressive, and his whole person also became more massive. With one more step, the great flaming footprint seemed to overlap with the previous one. Its strength multiplied wildly to destroy the sword will of the other. The person who stepped out pointed his finger forward, and the sword chi was released, turned into a terrible storm. It leveraged the attack of the other, and integrated a stronger sword will into the sword and slashed forth. Chongli continued forward, and the might of authority became stronger and stronger as his body became more and more powerful. Chonglu battle form had 13 forms, and one stronger than the one previously. Chongli took 7 steps, and 7 battle forms were released. However, his opponent did not back down at all, with the sword will opening the way. From the midst of that flaming footprint, whose power was condensed with the might of massive building, was shining with endless bright sword light, raging violently. At the same time, a giant sword penetrated it bit by bit. Both powers were incredibly overbearing. Many cultivators of the Chong clan tribe looked on with a frown. Chongli in their clan was already considered to be an extremely threatening character. Even within the 9 major tribes, all the top figures were about equal in strength in this realm. Now the other side had not yet sent out Yi Futian nor Xia Qingyuan. And there was even someone else who could go toe-to-toe with Chongli? At this moment, there was a dazzling sword light. Finally, with a loud noise, everything was destroyed. The flames and sword chi continued to rage between heaven and earth, causing a destructive storm within the space. Who was that? Someone asked. These 2 people, who were only at the nascent stage of Saint Plain, were very strong. Should be a cultivator from Emperor Xia's realm, someone thought. Yi Futian appeared calm as he watched the battle that was taking place in the void. Chongli was indeed strong. As for Chongli's opponent, it was none other than the swordsman, who reigned above the 33rd layer of heaven, in Lihan heaven of Emperor Xia's realm, Wang Chuan. The 2 fought violently, and many cultivators in the midst of the vast space had to release breath to fend off the ripples of the battle between the 2. Zhu Kong and Chong Lu watched the battlefield attentively, but at this moment, yet another cultivator stepped forward and entered the battlefield. It was the genius of the Saint Plain from the Zhu clan Zhu Nan. Not only him, but cultivators from all major tribes successively moved forward toward the battlefield. These people were all of the realm of proving holiness. It seemed that they wanted to force Yi Futian to make an appearance. If they could take down Yi Futian, they wouldn't need the help of the top characters of each tribe. All they would need was to block the top characters of the other side. Step by step, these cultivators headed directly toward the battlefield where Wang Chuan was. Yi Futian's brows knitted together, and before he even spoke, there were shadows next to him that went directly to the void. Knife Saint and Gu Donglu moved forward first, and made a beeline straight for the battlefield. After that, Yi Wuchen and Su Chehan also marched toward the battlefield. In addition, Xianyuan clan and the Divine Cloud Valley each sent out a cultivator, corresponding to the number of people sent out by the other side, so that each may go forward to find their own opponents. In an instant, the divine might swept across the battlefield, overwhelming the vast space outside of the city lord's office. Knife Saint pulled out the demonic blade. He did not regard this as an exhibition of exchanging battle techniques, but the actual battlefield. Today, the 9 major tribes themselves were not here to learn, but to capture and conquer. For a moment, the demonic might roared into the sky, and the knife will blended into the body of Knife Saint, so that his body seemed to be covered with a layer of demonic armor. The demonic blade puffed out terrible demonic radiance. The turbulent air currents swept through the void. He appeared in front of a cultivator from the Ravine tribe. The other's body was brilliant. The light of the golden raven bloomed. But when the Knife Saint struck with his blade, the sky seemed to be cut open by a terrible crack from the hill. His expression changed dramatically, and an immense golden raven appeared and dashed out, trying to block the light from the blade. But under the demonic blade, the shadow of the golden raven was chopped in two. The terrible demonic blade struck downward, and with a bang, the fire feathers of the golden raven that condensed behind him were cut off, and his whole person was dodging while backing away in a hurry, covered in cold sweat. This demonic blade. Many cultivators stared at the sword in the hand of Knife said. The knife was far stronger, surpassing the realm of Knife Saint himself, like the blade of all demons. When the blade struck, it was full of violent intention. Gu Donglio's opponent was a cultivator from the Nanli tribe. Floating above his body was a divine light, surrounded by ancient characters, resonated with the great path. The atmosphere soared wildly, and when the palm print blasted out, it felt that heaven and earth would explode. It was incredibly violent. Sung Chehan walked to a cultivator of the Shang tribe. His body floated to the other side, and his breath was not strong. The other saw him coming closer. A sneer flashed in his eyes, and a bright golden flame flowed in his palm. When Su Chehan arrived, his palm print blasted out and touched Su Chehan palm to palm. "You are seeking your death." Seeing Su Chehan dared to touch his palm, he spoke coldly condescendingly, and his intention to kill was strong. When the two palms collided, a horrible hot flaming air rushed into Su Chehan's arm instantly, and even ran all the way into Su Chehan's body. Su Chehan moaned under his breath. There was a terrible golden flame of the way inside his body that could destroy everything. It rushed to all of his internal organs, and his body was blasted backward, blood flowing out of his mouth. But at the same time, his opponent also made a sound of exclamation, looking at his palm. His flaming palm turned black, and soon, his arm was the same. The golden flame mixed with the dark. It looked incredibly sinister. Poison sorcery. The same was true of his face. The golden flame melted into the dark air currents. But even more frightening was that he felt that this poison sorcery seemed to be designed especially for his flames, as it dispersed when met with the fire, invading all the internal organs, limbs, and throughout the body. It was no picnic for Su Chehan either. He took out an elixir and fed it into his mouth, then withdrew quickly from the battlefield. He moderated his breath, turning poison into medicine, and a healing light shrouded his body to repair the parts that were damaged. As far as combat power, he was certainly not as good as the saints selected by the 9 major tribes of the Crimson Dragon realm, but his poison sorcery was unexpected and enough to make the other party suffer. The situation on the battlefield was obviously not as expected by the major tribes. They didn't have any advantages, and Yi Futian didn't even make a move. If you find any errors, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know so we can fix it as soon as possible. Zhu Kong frowned and glanced at the chaotic battlefield, and said coldly, "Go." Zhu Kong frowned and glanced at the chaotic battlefield and said coldly, "Go." As his voice fell, cultivators from all the major clans stepped out once again. In no time, more cultivators of the Saint Plain descended onto the battlefield. Xia Qingyuan frowned. Although their side also had quite a few doctrine saints, but not as many as those other tribes. As many figures came through the air, the cultivators in the first realm of the divine path started moving, and Situyan also stepped into the battlefield. "You go too," Shen Tianzhan said to Shinjun, who nodded in agreement, then walked toward the battlefield. An overbearing breath bloomed from Yi Futian's body, and he wanted to take action himself, but heard Xia Qingyuan say, "I'll go." As soon as she finished speaking, she marched on and went toward the battlefield. Yi Futian was the city lord of Qinya City. He could not make his appearance in the conflict so easily. Even Xia Qingyuan had come out to fight now. No one who was of the first realm of the divine path, from Emperor Xia's realm, dared to stay behind. For a moment, this vast space seemed to be completely inadequate for the battle between these people. As they continued to move the conflict toward higher altitude, the scene was becoming chaotic. In the distance, other cultivators kept coming. Saint Lord of Juyang of Jinmu City had arrived in person, and also Shi Chan, whose eyes directed toward the battlefield. Next to them was Chang Clan, another principality of Jinmu City, and Chang Huai was also there. His eyes were directed toward Yi Futian. There was a slight coldness in those eyes. Yi Futian glanced back, and saw not only the Saint Lord of Juyang, but also the cultivators of Xiang City. Xiangnan was also there. On this first day of the beginning of the year, Qinya City was truly lively, with top figures from all walks of life coming together. These top figures also looked toward the battlefield, and saw many acquaintances of the same level. "Saint King of Gai has arrived too," the Saint Lord of Juyang said while looking in a particular direction, where a group of shadows descended from the void. The person who headed the group was a man wearing a magnificent golden robe, appearing extremely majestic. Even standing there casually, he seemed to possess an authority that could rule the world. A pair of thick brows slightly curved like swords, showing a sharp and authoritative aura. His hands folded behind his back as he looked on at the battlefield. Many people's eyes were looking at him, and their hearts were shocked. They did not expect Saint King of Gai to come here for the occasion. Many people also looked at the person next to Saint King of Gai, a peerless young man with an extraordinary temperament, who had only the breath of the beginning of Saint Plain. But even before this, he was someone famous and well known. It was just that someone else had stepped upon his name to enter the regional palace. Xingqiu of the ancient imperial city, during the Battle of the Crimson River, witnessed by everyone, they thought that he would be like his older brother, Xing Kai, who swept aside all other cultivators and elevated to the regional palace to cultivate. However, in that battle, Yu Sheng surpassed all others, overpowered every single competitor, and entered the regional palace. It was rumored that after entering the regional palace, many geniuses in the palace tried to intercept Yu Sheng during the welcome ceremony. Yu Sheng fought his way into the regional palace and pushed forward in such an invincible manner, so that in a few short months, he was named in the regional king ranking. Saint King of Gai and Xingqiu came together. Even though Saint King of Gai was not from the ancient imperial city, there was no doubt in anyone's mind. The relationship between Saint King of Gai and the ancient imperial city was known to everyone in the Crimson Dragon realm. Very few in this realm of divine path would deserve the respect of this peerless Saint King, and he was almost at the peak. The only exception was the ninth servant, who was said to be the first person under Ren Huang, who was respected by someone as powerful as Saint King of Gai. Rumor had it that Saint King of Gai once received a favor of the ninth servant, the city lord of the ancient imperial city, and there were also rumors that Saint King of Gai was once a seeker at the door of ninth servant. Now, Saint King of Gai personally accompanied Xingqiu to Qianya City, and it was unclear if he was here simply for the excitement, or he had some other agenda. The assemblage around Qianya City was getting scarier. Zhu Kong also frowned slightly. He clearly felt that there were many people of the Nirvana plane around him, which was a threat in itself. It would be a tough situation if these people were also to compete for the relics left by Emperor Qua. Yi Futian, do you want to compete against us, the 9 major tribes with the power of Qianya City? In the void, Zhu Xian said with a clear voice while upon the sun carriage. The bright sunlight shone down, and hot air currents oppressed heaven and earth. Don't involve the others. If you retreat now, I will not pursue what had happened today. Yi Futian glanced at the other, responding. Zhu Kong, Chong Lu, and the others frowned. Their majestic look was even colder. This guy didn't know when to quit while he was ahead. What made you so sure of yourself? Zhu Kong uttered. The brilliant divine sunlight directly beamed in the direction of Yi Futian. Wu Yong appeared in front of him, with flames burning on his body, and the sunlight directly fell on him, as if he was bathing in the divine light. What about you? Yi Futian cast a glance at the other cultivators other than Zhu Kong, and Chong Lu. Think clearly. If you insist on participating in this matter today, and if you are not able to take me down, you will be responsible for whatever happens next. And if anyone from my Qianya City perishes today on account of this, I will most definitely take all of you out of the 9 tribes of Emperor Qua. Everyone stared at Yi Futian. He was way too presumptuous. The 9 major tribes in the west, except for the Wu tribe and the 7 tribes outside of the Bailey tribe, were here to join in the kill, and he dared to speak of such outrageous words. Could there really be a wild card? The 7 characters of Nirvana were present, even if it was just like the last time when the 3 great Nirvanas of Emperor Xia's realm descended. Shen Tianzhan and Wu Yong perhaps were not going to be enough. Furthermore, many top figures did not detect traces of other Nirvana characters in the city lord's office. The war between Dali dynasty and Emperor Xia's realm last time had caused discords between those 2 Renhuang realms. Where did Yi Futian get his confidence from? The brilliance on top of the sun carriage was getting brighter and brighter, and a hot glow shrouded the vast endless space. It seemed that Zhu Kong wished to take him down in person. The battle of the first stage of Divine Path that erupted out front was not going to be finished in a short time, and there was no way to touch Yi Futian in a hurry. Just as he was about to start, a strong breath came from afar. Zhu Kong frowned and directed his gaze at the distance. He saw a group of people come through the void. They instantly descended into this space. He saw a familiar figure, and it was the cultivator who had cooperated with the Zhu tribe previously, Wuhuang Princess, Yin Tianjiao. However, Yin Tianjiao later went to Yi Futian's aid instead. Yin Yinjiao was not alone, but came with many people. The person who headed the group was an elder clad in a flaming robe, who possessed a terrifying aura. The appearance of this person was recognized by many, and attracted many suddenly exclamations. Even the top figures of the regional palace were present. But he was surrounded by youngsters. Yu Sheng. Many people's eyes fell in one place. There was a stalwart figure standing next to the old man from the regional palace. He stood there, a head taller than everyone else, and his entire body seemed to be full of explosive power. Qinya City Yu Sheng. Xing Qiu's eyes instantly looked over there. After seeing Yu Sheng, his pupils contracted slightly, and his body was filled with the intention of war. In the Battle of the Crimson River, after he became a saint, he was suppressed by Yu Sheng, who had also broken into the divine path. The name of Xing Qiu was destined to be less than that of his older brother, and the rest of the world would always only see him and be reminded of Yu Sheng. Although Xing Kai had counseled him on that day that no one who cultivated in this world could be undefeated, seeing Yu Sheng's name becoming more well-known, and now among the regional king ranking just like his older brother, one could only imagine his feeling. One of the cave masters from the regional palace, Saint King of Gai, said to Xing Qiu while glancing at the old man next to Yu Sheng. Although Xing Qiu looked nothing out of the ordinary, his heart was extremely unsettled. Was Yu Sheng traveling with cave masters in tow? At the regional palace, there were some special places of blessings. Each cave master would have several very powerful characters under their tutelage, who were responsible for instructing the disciples of the regional palace daily. In other words, even if one had entered the regional palace, one may not be so easily accepted in the house of a cave master. Every cave master was someone who was the epitome of the Saint Plane. But Yu Sheng was accepted directly into the house of a cave master to cultivate. This was what he had wanted, but now, all the limelight was on Yu Sheng. Xing Qiu, even though he has a cave master to instruct him in cultivation, you have the teaching of the ninth teacher, not any inferior than him. Don't be too obsessed. Saint King of Gai seemed to have read Xing Qiu's mind, and was reasoning with him. Well, I will do my best, Xing Qiu nodded. It was difficult not to care about these things completely. Although I don't know what Yi Futian obtained, if it could persuade the chiefs of the 7 major tribes to come in person, it must be something quite extraordinary, Saint King of Gai whispered. Just as they were speaking, Yu Sheng stepped out and walked toward the battlefield. He did not look at those who were defeated by him, such as Xing Qiu and Xiang Nan, who were not important in his eyes. Zhu Kong and his people had noticed when the cultivators from the regional palace had arrived, and he now frowned when he saw Yu Sheng stepping out. He looked at the cave master, saying, "Today's matter is between our 9 major tribes and Yi Futian. The regional palace will not be interfering?" It was the Crimson Dragon Emperor who was behind the regional palace. Generally speaking, he did not like to interfere in the affairs of the outside world. "No," the cave master said lightly, which comforted Zhu Kong somewhat. He heard the other party continue. "But Yu Sheng is from Qinya City. If he wants to participate in the battle, the regional palace will not restrain him. So you are free to do as you please. However, we do not want to see people of higher realms from the 9 major tribes to bully disciples of the regional palace." Everyone who heard his words expressed a look of curiosity. Yu Sheng was someone who had already entered the regional king ranking, which was a clear sign that he was going to be the one doing the bullying. However, the words of the other could not be refuted either. If they deploy those of the higher realms to fight Yu Sheng, then the people of the regional palace would have a reason to butt in. Zhu Kong frowned slightly without saying anything further. He directed his gaze at Yu Sheng. Yu Sheng stepped outside of the battlefield and ran in one direction. Someone of the Saint Plane from the 9 major tribes directly attacked him. The flames were soaring high into the sky, and the violent handprints pressed down. Yu Sheng glanced at the other, his footsteps slamming into the void. The world roared, and demonic might tumbled and rolled without ceasing, as if it donned the demonic armor. Boom! With a loud bang, everyone saw that Yu Sheng did not block the attack at all, but instead, opened wide to allow the other's palm print to descend and blast it on his chest. The terrifying flame of the way intended to burn up his body. The fire soared into the sky, drowning Yu Sheng's body within it. The armor of the demon god seemed to ignite flames, becoming even more radiant. That man had never dealt with Yu Sheng before, and had no idea how terrible Yu Sheng's defense was. By the time he realized that something was wrong, it was already too late, and Yu Sheng struck out. Boom! With a loud noise, his chest was punched through from a single strike. If you find any errors, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know so we can fix it as soon as possible. This kind of power. Many people looked at the battlefield where Yu Sheng was after seeing his moves. This kind of power. Many people looked at the battlefield where Yu Sheng was after seeing his moves. After all, he was in existence new to the regional king ranking, and with the cave master of the regional palace accompanying him, it was natural that he attracted all the attention. People wanted to see just how strong his combat power was. This strike gave everyone a clear sense of the wild, explosive power contained in his stalwart body. His opponent was of the Saint Plain from the 9 major tribes, whose strike seemed to have done nothing when blasted upon Yu Sheng. But as he took a hit from Yu Sheng, the fist will directly punched through his body, and he fell from the sky. Without allowing them much time to think about it, Yu Sheng continued to walk and shook the void. His palms stretched out, and they instantly transformed into the palms of a demon god, grabbing towards someone of the Saint Plain. That cultivator of the Saint Plain waved with both hands. Endless divine fire surrounded his body. It erupted directly, blasting toward Yu Sheng. Boom! A shocking demonic might descended, and everyone saw a sheltering demonic shadow appear behind the giant palm print of the demonic way. This palm print seemed to explode out of the hands of this demon, and getting larger and larger. The great path of heaven and earth echoed each other, and suppressed this space. The cultivator of the Saint Plain felt that it was difficult to move. The dazzling divine fire collapsed and was pulverized underneath the palm print, and he quickly retreated. But before his very eyes, the demonic shadow continued expanding. The more he fled, the more he found the insubstantiality of his body, still under the palm of the demonic way. It felt as if there was no way up and no way down. Boom! A loud bang, and an immense palm print drowned him, slamming down on him from the sky to the ground. With a violent outburst of sound, an extremely clear giant handprint appeared on the ground, surrounded by rippling cracks. The hearts of many trembled. Such an aggressive, offensive force was merely hopeless. The regional king ranking, as established by the regional palace, was not specific in the kind of ranking it pertained to. Without exception, anyone who was on the list was almost invincible in his realm and surpassed their peers. Unless there was conflict with others who were also on the list, it was hard for the others to reach. Before Yu Sheng got on the list, there were still others who doubted his strength. Now many had witnessed just how strong those on the regional king ranking were. Xing Qiu stared at the battlefield that Yu Sheng was in. Now that he had entered the regional palace, he was much stronger than when he had first entered the divine path. The intent of battle surrounded his body, and he seemed to want to battle again. Saint King of Gai next to him seemed to have perceived the intent to battle from Xing Qiu, saying, "Do you want to go?" Xing Qiu did not respond, but he did want to fight again. However, this time was not the same as the Battle of Crimson River. In the last Battle of Crimson River, he thought he would win. But now he had not a bit of confidence. "You don't have any confidence?" Saint King of Gai continued, knowing that one shouldn't but still does so. It is the same tempering of the mind. As long as you release attachment to the outcome, treating it as a test, victory or defeat is irrelevant. He could see that the last battle had cast a shadow on Xing Qiu, who had just entered Saint Plain. This was unlike Xing Qiu from the past, full of self-confidence, and had the conviction of looking forward, as if he was on top of everyone who was excellent and worthy. Before that, he and Xing Kai were very much alike. The two brothers were exceptionally talented. The younger generation admired him a lot, and his achievements would not be lower than this brother's in the future. Therefore, Saint King of Gai wanted to help Xing Qiu overcome this mental block. Xing Qiu nodded, then really started walking straight toward the battlefield. On his body, a horrific glow bloomed, and the aura of the great path shone between the heaven and the earth. His body seemed to resonate with the birth of this firmament, and an immense body of the god of war appeared behind him. Xing Qiu at this moment turned into a war god. He raised his hand and launched an attack on a cultivator of the Saint Plain from Qianye City. It was Situ Yen. Situ Yen felt a terrible coercion of might. Her face changed as her strength bloomed in defense. But Xing Qiu's attack was aggressive and boundless. The strike of his palm was one with the great path, capable of destroying everything. With a loud sound, her body was thrown back, and blood spurted out of her mouth. Her body trembled violently, and the blood boiled within her body. Xing Qiu has made his move. In an instant, countless eyes fell on Xing Qiu, and many still remembered the end of the Battle of the Crimson River last time. Yi Futian frowned and looked up at the battlefield. Was Xing Qiu using this battlefield as his place of trial? Once again, Yu Xing crushed another person and blasted him away. He then headed straight to where Xing Qiu was. Likewise, Xing Qiu also approached him. After the Battle of the Crimson River, the two met once again. The power of demonic mighty kept rolling, and Xing Qiu concentrated on condensing the seal, resonating with the great path. A supreme coercion exploded out of his body, and above it, there was a faint trace of the glory or Renhuang. Seeing that Yu Sheng was approaching, Xing Qiu's body and his life spirit blended together, and a rumbling sound was heard. He transformed himself into the great path, and became a true god of war. Streams of light lit and surrounded his body, resonating with heaven and earth. With his body as the center, there was an overwhelming coercion of might. So strong, many in the Saint Plain secretly exclaimed as they felt the coercion of Xing Qiu. After Yu Sheng was named on the regional king ranking, everyone understood that Xing Qiu's defeat was not due to his weakness, but was because his opponent was even more terrible. Now those who were witnessing the will of battle on Xing Qiu would agree that it was indeed terrifying. Moreover, now that Xing Qiu had entered the Saint Plain, he must be able to fully exert the unique method inherited from Emperor Zhan, Taishian will. This technique could use the body itself to resonate with heaven and earth. The practitioner was required to practice martial arts, also from an early age. The body must also be able to be sanctified until the spiritual will and the body could resonate with one another to communicate with the heaven and the earth, so that one's own body could release battle power, far beyond one's combat power. This technique held extremely high requirements for the spiritual will, as well as for the physical body of the practitioner. Once upon a time, Emperor Zhan relied on this method to crush the peers of his generation. He fought everywhere with strength so great that he was named Emperor Zhan when he entered Renhuang realm. Centered on the body of Xing Qiu, a terrible storm seemed to be formed and rolled toward Yu Sheng. Yu Sheng stepped in the void, and the demonic might above the void was immense. Behind him, there appeared the illusion of a mighty demonic god whose pupils were cold, and his domineering eyes seemed to want to make Xing Qiu submit at his feet. The method practiced by Yu Sheng was perhaps not less powerful than Taishian will. The might of authority was terrifying. Before the two of them even made a move, two forces roared and clashed. Boom! Accompanied by a loud bang, the handprints of the demon god in the great path above the void blasted down from the sky. Xing Qiu let out a scream, and his body soared into the sky. The aura of the great path above his body resonated with heaven and earth, and illusions of the god of war appeared. He raised his hand to launch the method and rocketed into the sky. It seemed that it was a repeat of the Battle of the Crimson River in the past. Boom! The palms that could crush all crushed the space. Many fists aura of the war god broke into pieces. The arm that was the incarnation of Xing Qiu reached out, and thousands of fists will shattered the space as he attempted to raise the sky with his hands. Dong! Yu Xing stepped out and crossed the void, stepping down directly. As he looked down from the sky, his arms raised, and the figure of the demon king smashed toward Xingqiu, who was below. Another loud boom, and Xingqiu's body fell from the sky. He moaned and spat out a mouthful of blood again. "Help him," Zhu Kong said. Suddenly, cultivators of the Saint Plain flickered forward and launched an attack at Yu Sheng. They wanted to gang up on Yu Sheng. Xingqiu's mouth was still bloody as he looked up into the sky. His will to battle remained strong as he rose into the sky once more. Saint King of Gai looked at this battlefield and glanced at Yu Sheng. It seemed that this time, Xing Kai and Xingqiu had found their match. It was pressure, but it could also become motivation. Zhu Kong stepped forward, and an incomparably dazzling divine power descended. It was as if the sword of the sun fell straight down in the direction of Yi Futian. Wu Yong was still standing in front of Yi Futian. His palms blasted into the void as the sword fell, disappearing bit by bit under the flame in his palm. The top figures of all 7 major tribes stepped forward. Zhu Kong said, "Those who have nothing to do with this leave, lest the innocent are hurt." What a terrible scene when the powerful cultivators of Nirvana Plain get involved. Many cultivators below the Saint Plain all retreated into the distance, fearing that they too would be destroyed by the ripples of the aftermath. Cultivators of various major tribes came forward. Zhu Kong stepped out of the sun buggy, overlooking Yi Futian Road in the city's main government. "If we shoot, it might affect the entire city's main government. You really want us to do it ourselves?" Until this moment, he did not know where Yi Futian got his confidence. He even threatened him with these wild words. The 7 major tribes, how many tyrannical figures, this coercion came down. And the entire city's main house seemed to be shrouded in a coercion of coercion. "You'd better not hurt anyone else, otherwise, your tribes will be responsible." Yi Futian looked up at the figure in the void and said, "Elder Wu Yong, please take the way of Emperor Kwa." Wu Yong lifted his eyebrow and was puzzled, but he still nodded and said, "All right." Zhu Kong and cultivators from the other tribes were equally puzzled. What was the meaning behind Yi Futian's words? In Yi Futian's life palace, the branches and leaves of the ancient tree of the world wrapped around the dazzling fire spirit orb, as traces of horrifying flaming will diffused. This spirit orb drifted toward the life spirit of the sun in the life palace. Suddenly, that life spirit of the sun became brighter and brighter. In an instant, terrible flames lit up on Yi Futian's body. Above the firmament, the clouds changed color, and it seemed to turn into a world of the flames. The sun's rays fell on Yi Futian's body, and an infinite fire came toward him. The flames between heaven and earth also poured wildly toward Yi Futian's body. Boom! Yi Futian seemed to transform into a sun, bathed in the fire of the sun, which drowned his whole person within it. "Don't resist," Yi Futian said. For an instant, the brilliance of unparalleled flames poured into Wu Yong's body. What was more terrible was that there were not only flames, but also will that flowed wildly into Wu Yong's own will. At this moment, Wu Yong seemed to perceive a figure of Ren Huang, who was like a peerless god of war. "The inheritance of Emperor Kwa," Wu Yong murmured. His heart trembled. Did the sun that was devoured by Yi Futian contain the will left by Emperor Kwa? "Forge Chonglu battle form," Yi Futian said. Wu Yong nodded, and with a bang his body grew taller. He intended to become a god of war. If you find any errors, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know so we can fix it as soon as possible. What's going on? What's going on? Stares that were like sharp swords all directed toward Wu Yong, and then at Yi Futian, who was behind him. Above the sky, heaven was branded crimson red, flowing toward the distance, trying to envelop all of Qinya City. The sun above the sky seemed to become one with Yi Futian and Wu Yong, shining straight upon them. Boom! Wu Yong's body continued to grow taller, more and more powerful, wanting to shelter the sky. Zhonglu, the chief of the Zhong tribe, stared at the scene playing out in front of him. He couldn't be more familiar with this method. He was named after this method, Zhonglo battle form. Zhonglo battle form had 13 phases, and each was stronger than the one before. If it reached the 13th phase, it could be considered the battle form of Ren Huang, and even become the war emperor of the sun. By now, He had reached the realm of nirvana, but out of the 13 phases of the Zhonglo battle form, he had still only reached the 11th level, and it was only accomplished a few years ago. But at this time, Wu Yong's body continued to rise, becoming stronger and stronger. His aura was so imposing. It was as if he was a Runhuang reincarnate, and the battle form of Zhonglo was transformed and sublimated. Soon, Wu Yong's battle form had reached the 10th level. This was the level that nirvana levels could enter. Although Wu Yong entered nirvana not long ago, he never practiced heavy building battles before. The body, perhaps in the relics, would have to be passed on that day. At this moment, it broke through the 10th phase. Alas, Wu Yong did not stop there. He was still getting stronger. Futian seemed to be transformed into a sun that had devoured heaven and earth. All the fires were surging toward Wu Yong, lending all power to Wu Yong. Boom! Wu Yong's body pulled taller again, and the Zhonglo battle form now reached the 11th phase, the same level as that of Zhonglu, the leader of the Zhong clan. But what shocked Zhonglu was that he did not stop there. Wu Yong was bathed in the infinite flame, and an illusion appeared in his mind. He saw a majestic body standing between heaven and earth. It was Emperor Qua. At this moment, he truly felt the will of Emperor Qua. Break! With a thunderous shout, the fire emitted by the sun above the sky turned into a storm. Wu Yong's body rose again. The world roared, and the flames turned into a sea of fire. Many cultivators retreated into the distance. The entire city lord's office was burning, but beyond that, even the sky was burning. In the vast area centered on the city lord's office, countless people looked up at the sky, looking at that tall and immense figure, the flaming god of war. The battles of many cultivators of the Saint Plain were interrupted, and everyone was retreating to evacuate from the battlefield. At the moment, the will upon Wu Yong's body was far too terrible. It seemed intent on burning the sky, and it was difficult to bear the heat in close range. 12th phase. Zhonglu, the leader of the Zhong clan, was lost for a moment when he looked at the scene in front of him. The 12th phase could be considered to be at the top of Nirvana Plain, the real peak of the Saint Plain. Even he did not reach it, and now Wu Yong had done it. However, Wu Yong had achieved it by borrowing the way. Futian had indeed gotten everything left by Emperor Qua, as they had suspected. No wonder the ruins had disappeared. But what exactly did he get? According to the elders of the Wu clan, it was a terrible sight when Futian devoured the flames throughout the ruins. But it also seemed to corroborate the scene they were witnessing. He was devouring the flames of heaven and earth, and at the same time, releasing the infinite flame into Wu Yong's body to lend him the way. Above the sky, a face appeared. It seemed to be the face of Emperor Qua that then merged with Wu Yong's body. It was as if Wu Yong, at this moment, represented the will of Emperor Qua. Not only was the attention of the cultivators of the 7 major tribes fixed on this scene, but many of the cultivators here also stared at Futian and Wu Yong. What a terrible flame! What exactly did Futian inherit? No wonder the major tribes of the western region had gathered here today. They were intending on getting back whatever it was. Even if Emperor Xia's realm should be offended in the process, it was worth it to get back the inheritance left by Emperor Qua. But now, it seemed that it was not so simple to get it back either. 9 major tribes all belonged to Emperor Qua. Now that the will of Emperor Qua has made itself visible, the likes of you still have not bowed down in worship. What are you waiting for? Futian stood behind Wu Yong, bathed in the radiance of flames, and said in a clear voice that resounded through the space, "To ask the 9 tribes bow down in worship." At this moment, the will of Emperor Qua appeared and descended upon Wu Yong. But no one worshipped. Zhu Kong and the other 7 tribes were here today to arrest people. Even the appearance of Emperor Qua's will did not have much effect. They were here to recapture, not to worship. The will of Emperor Qua should be returned to the 9 tribes, Zhu Kong said. Sacrilege! Futian shouted. Today, those who violated the will of Emperor Qua are to be regarded as traitors. As the heir of Emperor Qua, I will mete out the punishment later. For now, you still have one last chance to repent. There is still time to obey the last testament of Emperor Qua. I don't know what you are talking about, Zhu Kong said coldly. His eyes were directed at the others. he said. Since he is stubborn and unwilling to follow us back to the west, let's make him. Obviously, he still decided to fight Futian. As the situation had deteriorated to this point, how could it be possible to turn back now? The leaders of each tribe belonged to the Nirvana plane. They were resilient and would not retreat easily. With the 7 cultivators of the Nirvana plane surrounding Futian, the whole world was burning. Everyone get back, Futian said to his people. This battle was a battle among those at the peak of Nirvana. For those below Nirvana plane, it would be difficult to intervene. Unless those in the front had no doubt. Only Shin Tianzhan was still guarding next to him. He was also an expert at flaming ability. If Wu Yong did not come this time, and someone from the Crimson Dragon realm came to plunder, he might have to fight using Shin Tianzhan. But Wu Yong, who was originally from the Wu clan that belonged to Emperor Qua, was much more suitable. Zhu Kong looked down, and the sun's divine rays sprinkled downward. He lifted his palms. Suddenly, the flames of heaven and earth condensed into a terrible vortex, which directly condensed into a solar fireball and burned all existence. Go! Zhu Kong waved his palms downward, and suddenly, the sun dropped. It chased toward the immense body of the towering flaming god of war. The 12th phase of the Zhonglo battle form achieved by Wu Yong. At the moment Zhu Kong made his move, the 7 cultivators of the Nirvana plane gathered a terrible flame of the Great Path at the same time, all of which had the power to destroy. Zhong Lu, head of the Zhong clan, between the opening and closing of his eyes, an extreme might descended between heaven and earth. He stepped into the void, and it seemed that a flaming war god would come from the sky and kill Wu Yong. The cultivators of Raven tribe stepped forward, and suddenly, golden sun birds appeared between heaven and the earth, whistling down and drowning the void. 7 cultivators attacked simultaneously. The attack of each contained a different flame, but they all contained a terrifying force of destruction. Wu Yong lifted his eyes and looked at the sky. Between the sky and the earth things had changed. The infinite flames in the sky converged and spawned a terrible storm this immense. The 7 characters of the Nirvana plane looked at Wu Yong's eyes, and saw that between the blinking of the eyes, a solar storm descended. The suns went toward the people in attacks, colliding in the void as if it was the flame that would destroy the world. Boom! Wu Yong reached the sky in one step. His eyes were terrible. At this moment, he seemed to have been transformed into a god. Those eyes were the divine eyes of the sun that hid the method and ways within them. Looking afar, a solar storm was born. The terrible solar vortex storm swept out toward the 7 Nirvana cultivators, trying to bury them in the solar storm. Witnessing this terrible storm, the 7 Nirvana cultivators looked badly. This was the method of the Zhu clan, divine eyes of the sun. Now it was blooming on Wu Yong with a power that was extremely scary. Compared with Zhu Kong, it could only be stronger, not weaker. The cultivators in the distance were shocked when they saw this scene before them. Was Wu Yong going to fight the 9 major tribes' 7 Nirvana figures with his own strength? At this moment, Wu Yong's breath climbed almost to the extreme of Nirvana plane. Some other Nirvana figures who were also there stared at the battlefield. Saint King of Gai looked indifferent, focusing ahead. Borrowing the way, borrowing the will of Emperor Qua, he said in his heart. He did not expect Futian to work in tandem with Wu Yong to showcase such combat effectiveness. Zhonglo battle form at the 12th phase was already at the top of the Nirvana plane. Wu Yong himself was of the Nirvana plane. Futian had swallowed the power of heaven and earth in order to lend the power to him, thus making him even stronger. That, combined with the will of Emperor Qua and his inheritance of the way, all contributed to the making of Wu Yong at this moment. Wu Yong, under such circumstances, was stronger than any one of the 7 great Nirvana figures, and was much stronger. Therefore, even if the 7 great Nirvana figures joined forces, it would be difficult to kill Wu Yong. But to take down Futian, it was necessary to pass over Wu Yong. Zhu Kong and the others naturally understood this as well. Zhong Lu Raven, we will be the main attack. The others can take down Futian, Zhu Kong said. Inside the solar storms, there was a sun god sword penetrating the storm. Zhu Kong's body went downward with might authority. Zhong Lu and Raven moved at the same time with him toward that peerless Zhonglo battle form, trying to hinder Wu Yong. The other four nirvanas bypassed Wu Yong in an attempt to take down Yi Futian. Wu Yong's strength was given by Yi Futian. If Yi Futian was to be taken down, Wu Yong would lose without a fight. Seeing the seven nirvanas coming closer, like gods diving down, Wu Yong's countenance remained unchanged. The flames kept burning on his body, and at the moment when the seven nirvanas descended, an infinite golden raven manifested, drowning the sky. It came out attacking. This golden raven seemed to possess torrential breath that seemed to be transformed by his will. The seven nirvanas attacked at the same time. Wu Yong stared at one person in particular, the relatively weak chief of the Shang clan among the seven great nirvanas. 1,000 divine arms, Yi Futian commanded. Wu Yong understood. Suddenly, on top of the towering and terrible Zhonglo battle form, infinite arms suddenly appeared, and each one of them was surrounded by terrible flame. It was as if there were thousands of arms being extended at the same time, grabbing at the seven cultivators of the nirvana plane. Boom! Wu Yong stepped into the air, suppressing the firmament above. The shadow of Emperor Kwa appeared to become solid. At this moment, the seven nirvana figures had an illusion. It was as if Emperor Kwa had returned for this battle using Wu Yong's body. These abilities were all abilities of Emperor Kwa. If you find any errors, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know so we can fix it as soon as possible. You're tuning in to the Li Mei's Wuxia Whispers YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support. And don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.